Whew, yeah, it's a lot, isn't it, for episode 69?
There's a lot going on in that one.
Yeah, a lot going on.
Episode 61, nice. 69, nice.
69, nice. Welcome. It's a very special day for us here. Of course, we've hit that milestone. 69, nice. We've done it, guys.
Is that where we end the podcast now? Episode 69, nice.
This is the start of something special, I think.
Oh,
from here on, it's going to get really good.
Wow.
Everything else was a preamble, a warm-up, so to speak.
How can we persuade people to listen to the previous 68 episodes if it starts now?
Right. It's a good... Yeah, that's kind of like bad advertising, isn't it, really?
I like to think of it as like can't see the woods for the trees kind of scenario, where like, you know, you can't tell that the podcast is this good because you look at each individual podcast and you can't quite pick out why they should listen. But there's such a weight of them now that they can't see that that's the case. So they presume that the podcast is pretty good because of just the length of time it's been going. So it's sort of like a reverse woods for the trees environment. You want to try and baffle your audience into submission ultimately. And I think that we're achieving that every podcast.
Yeah.
Well, we are, Trott, we are. But honestly, I don't trust them to be smart enough to realize that.
Nice. Well, yeah, I'm in that camp too. I'm barely smart.
Okay.
But here I am making a podcast, episode 69. Nice. And my name is Chris Trott.
Nice one, Chris Trott. My name's Ross Hornby.
My name's Alex Smith. Hello.
And who did the fingal?
That eclectic mix of waves of audio was created by Matt, aka appropriate name Nerve Cluster, who is on Bandcamp. So if you want to check him out, that's very much gives me sixth alternative polyrhythmic progressive metal vibes, which is just I'm sure quite if you broke it down theoretically, it would be quite the discussion and be like, wow, that's amazing. But yeah, that's what that is, I think. Let me know if I'm right or wrong. Anyway, our wonderful patrons, Patreons, have decided once again they are our dictators. They choose where we go in this episode in terms of hypothetical questions, and the one that tipped it all off is as follows. Alex Smith, please take it away.
What's the closest thing to real magic? And I've already got an answer for you here.
Pretty easy.
Magnetism.
Well, magnetism.
That shit is crazy.
David Copperfield, but all right, sure.
You're going to say David Copperfield. Like Ross, what's your initial
I'd probably say
thoughts?
Fire.
Okay.
He's still in the caveman period.
It's still a magical concept, though, isn't it? It's just like you can just make fire, and then it's just extremely destructive and sometimes hard to put out. But that's a magic. It's magical in this. It's not magical in a fuzzy warm. It's like wow, this is insane to witness.
Mm-hmm. It is. It is.
I think
it's very primal, isn't it?
It's primal.
It's something you look like, you see everything else in the world and the nature and everything around you, and like there's dynamic elements to it for sure. You know, there's movement in the world around us, but there's something about fire that's sort of different to the other things, isn't it? Like the way that it sort of is. Well, it's a sustained chemical reaction. It's a sustained chemical reaction that's releasing energy, but that's really cool to see. Like that's quite an amazing thing to witness, isn't it?
But I would also say flight. And by that, I mean, like, literally planes flying, the giant steel structure or aluminium.
The idea of lift.
If you're listening in the States. Just the seeing that in the sky is just magical in the sense that I don't understand airplanes enough in the scientific sense to think, wow, like, it just is a giant, heavy thing in the sky. And that's magical in the sense.
I guess in the same respect, massive cruise liners staying buoyant in the sea is kind of the same concept, right? It's like, how can this heavy thing generate enough surface area, should I say, for a boat to sustain itself on water, and how can a plane generate enough lift?
I still feel that the boat thing is still more grounded to reality than the flying thing for me.
Think so?
But maybe that's just me, I don't know. But seeing something that big in the sky,
magical.
more magical to me than seeing something float on water. But
David Copperfield walked through a fucking wall, Ross, and I think that's
well. I mean, David Copperfield.
Didn't he move an airplane as well, or something, or a statue?
He certainly did, but I think this was all revealed in the Magician's.
Let's not talk about the Martians
Unveiled.
Because
I believe it was just a cut shot, and he just pulled the curtain back. So it was very much just magical. Like, what is this?
They kept the camera framed around the frame that he had, because remember it was like looking through a porthole. So he had like a frame, and I think they just framed the camera on that frame and then moved everything whilst the curtain was up, and then just took the curtain. It was shit. It was it was easily
extremely underwhelming.
Do you know how he did that?
Just our collective gullibility.
The Eiffel
Is
Tower,
gullibility a word?
The Eiffel Tower was a good one because it's a static object, right? It's like, how do you get rid of that? Well, it turns out the entire rig of like the stage, the thing that David Copperfield was on, and the big curtain that David Copperfield covered up the Eiffel Tower in front of the camera was entirely on a rig with the camera fixed, and all it did was move the entire rig left until it was out of frame, and then pull the curtain back.
Yeah,
that's all they did.
And the curtain didn't even blow in the wind? Is that or was it waving to begin with so that it created an effect of
what do you mean?
Magic? What was the curtain? If they physically moved the whole thing, did the curtain not blow a little bit in the wind? Too. Is it just so slow? It was just that's what I mean. But like, was there any wind resistance?
Oh, I see. Yeah, they must have pinned it down.
Yeah,
it was outside, wasn't it?
It was. I think
it was outside.
So they probably...
I mean, that's a pointless detail, but yeah.
But you're right. Like they would have noticed like any sort of shuddering or something like movement of the camera. Like the camera is fixed to that thing on wheels, I assume. If it had started like shuddering, you'd be like, hold on a second, what's happening here? Anyway, magic wise,
if you just hear like a moving motor, hold on, something's changing here. What are they doing?
Brakes.
Cut the mics. Cut the mics.
A bit more left. Bit more left.
Bit more left. He's not quite out of shot. He's not. You haven't panned round enough.
You can still see the torch.
That'd be fun if they pull the curtain back. It's just slightly right of frame. It's like, oh no, I can still see it.
David's fallen off. He's fallen off the
Tower.
Rig. He's fallen off.
Well, I mean, anyway. Looking at very quickly, well, not very, hopefully very quickly, because it's a large subject that you can fall into. But like, essentially, me saying magnetism, Ross saying fire, obviously Trott the outlier with the David Copperfield. I mean, it really touched him. It ultimately is physics, and it ultimately is the bizarre nature in which the things we think we understand behave. Like as in like things, the things that make us up, the atoms, the protons, the neutrons, all that sort of stuff, all apparently, as far as we're aware, work in this certain way. And that is kind of mad. It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it. Like, why does it work like that?
I guess
like that's kind of the fact you exist at all, and the fact that you can think about things is almost magical in itself.
That's it,
if by magic you mean incredibly
consciousness,
improbable. Yeah,
because we don't fully understand necessarily why we're conscious. So that's in itself the mystery.
If we are at all,
if we are at all, and that's magic in itself. So
why are humans so wrapped up in the idea of having more than what we have, though? If this is such an unlikely happenstance of existence, the ability to even exist, right, is quite a crazy concept. Why do people still want to be able to cast spells? Able to,
because our existence is passive. Because our existence currently is passive, and we've learned, from the day we were born, this is what we are, and this is how we think, etc. And then you want to add on to that with magic powers.
I just find it interesting, extra. Like, from an evolutionary standpoint. I guess
extra.
I guess it's beneficial to survival to like find new ways to adapt and progress, biologically speaking, to like overcome your predators that are also adapting to try and kill you better. Is maybe that where?
Well, there's a debatable. There's a debatable school of thought which I don't fully agree with. Well, because frankly, there's no... Well, that'll help. There's no one answer. Obviously, it's a myriad of things that have made us the way we are. But you could say that the pursuit of exploration, both physically and in the physical world and in the, mental world, or metaphysical, if you'd like to say, as in the thought, the idea of exploring through thought and the idea of physically exploring the world, both of those things are inherent to the modern human being. That's how we started. We started, in the cradle of life. So as far as we know at the moment, we started in sort of a fairly centralized location and spread out from there and formed different cultures and tribes and all that sort of stuff. And that is because ultimately we were explorers that wanted to find new things. And that perhaps is why we've survived so long, why we've become the apex species. We happen to have a trait or a behavior that allowed us to progress ultimately. So you could argue that exploration and progress is the nature of the human being, but that's not all that's required for our continued success, clearly, because part of the reason we're in the problems we're in with climate change and things like that is the pursuit of endless progress without consideration of other factors.
And that's the closest thing to real magic, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, there is magic.
There you go.
What about the circulatory system? Just to be fair, anything scientific is pretty magical to me. But the most magical thing is Harry Potter, obviously.
Obviously, the most magical thing to talk about in our podcast, Hatch Out, top 5 Harry Potter podcasts in the UK.
Yeah, we're getting up there. Going to the ranks.
Is the Wizarding World and all it contains, and perhaps ideas that it doesn't yet contain, like a lot of parodies, of parodies, sort of things like that.
And should it be so easy to kill someone with just a flick of your wand?
Just one spell. It feels. Spell. I mean, then again,
especially considering how difficult it was to
guns
lift a feather,
are like that, though.
True.
Well, yes, that's true. Actually, exactly. I mean, they do say in the books that you really have to hate somebody. You really want to have to do it.
The one, Trott.
She'll probably, change that in the future anyway. I mean, with the power she has to change retroactively characters
is magic.
Is magical.
Yeah. Well, she could control. Hermione could control time at one point as well. I'm not sure you're factoring that in. The fact that she could literally be in 2 places at once. Neville, I think it might have been Neville when he was trying to levitate the feather. Very gentle, difficult, delicate spell. I think it caught fire. Now, are we okay with wizards having that risk? Was that Seamus? Was it? Sorry, that was Seamus. Of course, because he represented chaos, because that's how J.K. Rowling saw Irish people. Ultimately, ultimately, yes.
He did that. That's the magic.
Quick to anger, I believe, as well. We remember Seamus angrily branding Harry Potter once he read something in the news. So again, impulsive, naturally angry people. Again, is how J.K. Rowling saw the Irish. Are we okay with wizards being able to accidentally combust things whilst trying to perform a delicate spell? And B, are we okay with the heavy, quick to anger, violent hand of the Irish? Is my second question.
The Harry Potter films bring up a lot of stuff, and we should really go deeper into it. But I think that's kind of the magic questions done. Unless you've got anything else that you feel like is more magical than the circulatory system, the consciousness.
Quantum physics is pretty fucking magical.
Quantum physics. I don't understand enough about quantum physics, so I would say it's also magical.
At the moment, our human understanding of quantum physics is crazy. Like we know so little. Things can be one thing and another. Yeah. And exist in two places at once.
Hearing, all of this stuff, magical to me.
Yeah,
it's an orgasm when I walk outside. It's senses, sensory overload, everything.
Nowadays, that's what it feels like. I mean, the last year and a half, 2 years, we've been working from home, and we're very lucky to have been doing that. I don't want to say I'm not complaining necessarily, but I've started to get far more into submarines in this time. I'm way more into something. Then Vigil came out, and holy shit! I'm guessing Vigil was probably
hidden space. Underwater where there's less escape.
Because there's almost a solidarity or there's a comfort in watching. It's a bit like the Gogglebox effect. Like there's a comfort in watching a person perform a thing that you're doing, right? So like you watch people, I think, happened more in sort of places like Japan where they had the inset reactions of people to things they're watching. And then obviously YouTube eventually followed that as well, where we all started to put our cameras in whilst we were playing games. There's some sort of thing going on there where we enjoy seeing another human being enjoy something. Same with Gogglebox. It's like, we're sat on the sofa and they're sat on the sofa and they're watching it. I think that's why that's a success. And equally with this stuff, it's
I also find Gogglebox good for
I like
shows.
To watch submarine shit because I feel like sometimes I'm in a submarine and I feel solidarity and perhaps understand them a little bit more now, like that state of mind. And I'm like, this is quite interesting actually. And Vigil comes along, this BBC series, which is a murder mystery on a submarine. And they too, I think, are sort of capitalizing on the attachment that people are finding with that show because of the nature of lockdown and the feelings it's had on people. They recognize those feelings now. I think there's quite a lot of psychology to it, really. I find it quite interesting. That's my foray into Submarines at the moment.
Submarines are pretty magical.
Extra isolationist mentality.
I'm just exploring it, you know. Like it's interesting to.
I watched the first one. I need to watch it again, I think.
Tell you something.
Didn't grab me.
Didn't grab you.
No.
It's not great, but the sets are amazing. Well, it's one of these. It's a little. I say it's not great, but loads of people like Line of Duty, and for me, I stopped watching Line of Duty because it just got so ridiculous. I mean, it all it is. It's not like it's frustrating, those shows, because they kind of edge you to the point of frustration. Where and they do this really annoying storytelling thing where instead of resolving existing storylines or developing or exploring them further, they just add another modifier effect on top of it in the form of a different plot line. So, for example, it's like, oh, we all think the governor is the bad. Like, this is I'm not spoiling anything here. This is something I'm making up as an example. Oh, we all think the governor's crooked, and then it's like, no, the governor wasn't crooked. They had a grandfather who used to be the biggest crime boss in London. It's like, it's him. He's controlling it all. And then there'll be like the next like 3 episodes. It's like, we've got to this big guy. Turns out it's the British government that are controlling it.
And then it's like always an escalation.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, for fuck's sake, I just want to like follow this thread, right? And that's when I got like pissed off with Line of Duty, because it was just doing that. And there is elements of that in Vigil because it's written by the same team or some of the same team. And it's sort of like complications. But the thing about Vigil that I think is good is the set design is amazing. Like, they had to build all of the sets, and I've watched quite a few. There's a really good series on Smarter Every Day's channel where he goes around a US submarine for like 5 days. He sees what they eat. He sees where they work. Doesn't see all of it because they've got like nuclear generators and things on board that they're not allowed to show. He climbs inside one of the fucking torpedo tubes, and they're underneath the Arctic ice, right? I mean, this is a crazy experience you got to do. So they spend 3 days under the ice, moving around. They come up through the ice. It's incredible. Watch it. It's actually quite hard to find on this channel, but Smarter Everyday Submarine Tour. It's a 5-part. Dude, American submariners eat the worst shit imaginable, right? So imagine eating like Domino's every night. So they have a lot of fried food, and the main thing is it's about maintaining morale, because obviously if you're under the water for a long period of time, morale on a ship of any kind is very important. So the main way that they keep morale up is by feeding them really well. And the cooks do all sorts of stuff. They make loads of like pizzas by hand and all this other stuff.
Oh, okay.
But the meals,
not fast food then.
What it is, though, because they have giant freezers on board that they store all of this like calorific food to keep everyone going for like up to like months at a time. They can store something like 3 months of food. And they're like, cold, okay, tonight's pizza night. And then like the next day it's like, all right, tonight's lasagna night. And like, it's always like really heavy, really cheesy food. And they're like, oh, this is the crew's favorite, jalapeno poppers and mozzarella sticks, right? And so they've got these fryers going. And it's just, and they're going around the ship, and everyone's like, yeah, but like every night it's something fried and yellow, you know? And I'm just like,
stay fit though. And
no, they don't.
Oh, really?
I think people, it's,
you'd think that would slowly diminish everyone's like happiness levels, like eating badly all the time. That certainly makes me more lethargic and like pissed off and irritable, having so much like carbs and sugar and stuff. But I guess they must balance it, right? And if it's made fresh, it's probably better than processed. But if they fry everything, Jesus, mental.
It's an interesting experience to see. But I mean, very interesting. Very interesting. I mean, you guys did die, you know.
That is magic.
That is the closest thing to magic. There you go. Submarines
were another thing I was going to say.
Microscopic
technology.
Yeah.
Being able to see those tiny
antibiotics.
All these things, magic. Medicine.
I think there's
magic.
Infinite universes within scale. So the closer you get past that quantum level, you start seeing
there's another universe.
There's like tiny, tiny people beyond the quantum size of things. And then it all loops back around again.
Are you thinking about the film Ant-Man?
Is that real magic?
Yeah. I thought about this in secondary school. because you know those diagrams you used to get, they're very rudimentary by today's standards, where you had like the nucleus and the electrons spinning around. It's like I had an epiphany because I was like a teenager and I thought I knew everything, and I told my science teacher, what if, all right, the nucleuses and electrons are actually just planets, and we are just made up of universe. We are a universe ourselves, and we just zoom in, and everything is a planet within ourselves. And she was like, "Okay, it's break time."
Too deep. I can't go into this without confusing other people and confusing myself.
But I mean, that's not bad. I mean, it's possible. Yeah. It could be, like you say, like if things get down to the quantum level, like, you know, if it gets smaller and smaller and smaller, does it go back round again? Maybe. There are things and systems in our universe that suggest that might happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
they think that like black holes almost like are almost a representative of like entropy, aren't they? In a way, like, you know, they take matter and energy into them, and then they think that they expel them actually out in the form of hairs on the wisps of black holes. On the sort of corona of the black hole. I don't think it's called a corona, but do you know what I mean? Like the outside. Something about how they almost they scramble and re-emit sort of information in the form of Hawking radiation. Thank you, Biscuit. It's really cool. And I mean, that in a way could support this idea, Trot, of like, if sort of things get so small, or is there a point of unreality or a point of transition where one thing becomes something else or changes? It's pretty trippy. I mean,
Bang, one of those transitions.
You might very much enjoy psychedelics, I think, Trot, because you just be like, oh my God, I understand everything. I'd never come out and then this is where all these crazy paintings come from.
Right.
You know, like people thinking that they've seen the nature of reality or understand something new when in reality.
Your oneness.
Yeah, but ultimately it's probably just your little monkey mind going like, oh, I can't grip any of this. You know, like
when you just see the scale of these black holes and stuff, just getting your head around that is just impossible, really.
Well, I wouldn't, Ross. Get sucked in.
Well, yeah. No, of course. But
actually, Trot, they say you get slower. Time goes slower the closer you get to the event horizon, though, Trot.
True.
So at a certain point,
you're frozen. But from an outsider's perspective, not from someone inside.
Well, because if they're so big, like, why aren't they just sucking us up like instantly? You know?
Well, they're not that
big. Yeah, they're not that big.
Yeah,
not big
you're so big.
Really, why do you think you're so big?
Come at us.
Supermassive. I've seen bigger.
Ain't got me yet. Anyway, something that will get you all. This is going to be fantastic, but it is an ad break.
Oh, wow.
And if you are a patron supporter, you didn't even miss a beat at all.
No,
you didn't even get an ad. And maybe you were lucky and you just didn't get served an ad anyway. But thank you to our patrons for supporting us and getting the ad-free version on the website.
Thank you.
So there you go.
Oh my God.
Anyway, we should probably move away from black holes and stuff.
We can
in general, because they're bad.
You put here, I don't suppose, Smith, you've actually watched any of the Squid Game?
Yeah, I watched the first episode last night.
Okay,
I think we can non-spoiler talk about the concept of it as like a hypothetical.
I think the first one introduced is the idea, which should be non-spoiler.
The trailer introduced the idea,
and you're waiting to watch it.
Yeah, basically, this is a South Korean production, which is really cool, and it has a very stylistic approach to essentially people down on their luck have tons of debt. Like, we're talking millions of debt, but in our standard, I guess, translated, it's more like hundreds of thousands.
When you convert it, like, because I think, what was it, 34.8 billion won was 21 million pounds.
That's
just for an idea.
Oh my God, that's a lot.
How much? Sorry, what was the
30? I think it was like 36 billion won.
Yeah,
was 21 million pounds.
And so like the average debt of the person in it was like less than a couple million won, right? It was like 50 million at most, I think I heard.
Yeah, it was a few million, basically.
So how many won is that? Not very much, thousands.
Well, 1 million won.
Seems like they need to it's like, remember the lira, the Italian lira before they got the euro? There was like you'd have to spend thousands on that as well.
Yeah, 1 million won is 624 pounds. So that would be so annoying to work with such high numbers.
That's crazy. Anyway, I checked out Squid Game, and they had like a live presentation of it, and it just turns out it's just some woman trying to be funny,
Lydia, wasn't it?
and playing games and stuff. And I was like, ugh, I don't know why everyone's into this.
This is not nothing like it's on Squid
Netflix. And it's actually a really good show. Have
you heard that she's just been hounded for her username?
Yeah.
So this is Lydia.
Really?
Her username is Squid Game. And on Instagram, she's just being begged by people because it's been highly rated. The show is like massive worldwide.
Yeah.
It is huge.
And so now her username is basically like a trending topic, like all the time.
Holy shit. Yeah.
Some good random.
So lucky.
I mean, maybe she could sell it to them. That's a good thing or a bad thing, though. But yeah, like, it depends on how much you could sell it for. Like if it's,
Can you sell it? Like, do you actually have any rights, or can Instagram just go, we're taking your tag?
You could take it on that, maybe on the download.
I feel like if they were going to try, they would have done it before they released.
Yeah, I think their official one is like Squid Game Netflix or something, or Netflix Squid Game.
Like, we ain't touching Lydia.
It's Netflix's most popular show ever. Really? Yeah. I mean, how many times can we say that? Is it just that they've got the most numbers ever for it? Like,
yeah, because we don't know the numbers, do we?
Subscriber numbers, it's inevitable. The new big show that Netflix promotes. So
it's like for a while you'd see films like say stuff like that, and you're like, I don't know, it just loses its. You're like, really, it's the biggest ever. Oh yeah, it's like with Apple saying like it's our brightest screen ever. You're like, well, of course it is.
Of course,
this is iteration.
Yet.
Yeah, yeah. It's like,
shit. You haven't stepped back.
Yeah. Anyway. The day that they go, this is actually less powerful than the previous year's phone.
Worst
you're not going to
ever release.
Sell one.
Slightly shittier than last time. Squid Game. Basically, the concept is you're down on your luck because you're heavily in debt. You got mafia people or whatever coming up to you, beating you up for money and stuff, and you're like, I'll pay it, etc., etc. This is like how bad your debt is, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And then you get offered to play some games, and you'll win money, a lot of money, if you participate. Mm-hmm. And then you unwillingly get put into this game show, essentially, where if you get it wrong, you die. You straight up get killed instead. And then
on the spot, yeah.
It's a very interesting concepts in it. It's not that simple in terms of like, well, just leave and stuff like that. They kind of answer all the questions in the first episode with the people in it. And you know, the ones that I'm like, well, just do this, just think of that, and literally all the people in it answer those questions for me, which is, I thought, really good.
Yeah.
But anyway,
there are some challenges in that, by the way, which I think would be quite fun for us to try.
Okay, with the death element,
like as a video, maybe not death element. Okay, maybe a different punishment.
But how much would
interesting concept?
So I watched the first episode. My initial impressions are, I liked the build up to an extent. I like how they're clearly demonstrating things like addiction to gambling addiction, and also the way that they showed like the reward system, almost like the way that the character that they focused on was so like jubilant when they finally got that big win. Like he was like absolutely euphoric.
Perfect candidate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Like they very much showed that, and I was like, that's good. I mean, it's nice that they're focusing on that. Like they really are like highlighting something here. And then when eventually he's met by the guy in the subway, again, I won't spoil too much. And that goes on. Again, it's just hilarious, like the metaphor for like how much they're willing to go through in order to get something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a really basic, simple way to show it. And I really enjoyed that as well. I do think that unless it gets more intelligent or like continues to be, which it has got some nice subtlety to it. I do like the subtle. It is ultimately still battle royale. It is ultimately still like the same. And I'm talking about the. Okay, yeah, exactly. I'm just basing this off the first one.
Good.
I just feel a bit like it's a little bit of vengeance porn or justice porn or something, in that like it's like, look at these poor people. Don't worry, they are pieces of shit, so you don't have to care about them. Like the process of dehumanization, in order to then make you feel okay about seeing people get slaughtered.
I think the perspective is very much on the player rather than the people hosting, so to speak. They seem like the dehumanized people put in these. But anyway, that's getting too nuanced and too spoilery, perhaps, with the concept of the show.
Perhaps.
It's been
either way.
Enough, but
how much would you have to be paid to participate in a game where if you fail it, you die?
Man, you've seen me play games.
There's a chance you can.
I wouldn't be able to enjoy that money. Try.
It's not stacked against you. You can win this
story.
Game.
I mean, that question is exactly what I imagine the whole of Squid Game is ultimately trying to prove, is that like what you're doing there is you're setting yourself a set of rules that suggest that your competence and you alone, which is just individualism, are the ones that are A, responsible, or B, having to compete in an environment. Otherwise you die. Like I would say to that, I wouldn't give you a price, because I know that I am not competent in every way. Like I know that I have failings, be they physical or mental, that will mean that I am not the best fit for every situation. And that's ultimately the flaw of individualism, because I would rely on people around me to fill up and pick up on the spaces where I am not as competent. And therefore I would never want to be in what is hell, the environment you're describing, where I have to compete for money at risk for my own life. That is failure, because we are not effective at everything. Nobody is. So therefore, really, you're just seeing the sad reality of an enforced individualistic system, which is exactly what I think, from watching one episode of Squid Game, is what it's trying to show you. It's showing you that this ultimately, if we don't work together, if we don't accept that we are more than ourselves, we rely on others to be complete, then you're only ever going to end up with a rat race and a meat market.
Yeah.
But anyway, how much would it cost for me to compete for my own life? Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah, it's just in terms of if you think you could do some. I mean, the games are, the whole point is the games are straightforward. That they're kind of, childhood schoolyard games, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the whole point is that it's not supposed to be that challenging physically necessarily. And yeah, they've got a huge pile of money to work with there. So it's just like, is that dangling carrot enough for you to say, yeah, now I'm going to go to the next one and potentially die?
No, never. Because I know that I could fail without knowing it.
Yeah, but this is it. I'm such a clumsy asshole. I don't think I'd ever do it.
This question doesn't work for us because we don't have nothing. We have something to lose.
Yeah, our life isn't on the line in terms of finances. Yeah,
all the people in the show feel like themselves they have nothing to lose at this point. That's why they continue to play. Is they are literally in debt and will either be killed outside of this game anyway by the people that owe them money, or their life is shambles and everyone around them has left them or whatever. That's the rock bottom that is required in order to participate.
Isn't it interesting? Isn't it?
Well, yeah, but isn't it interesting though that even us understanding that, I hate to use buzzwords, but essentially we other, because it's dehumanization ultimately. It's what the Nazis did. Other's a more modern term for it, really. But like, we're othering them from us. We're saying that they're different to us because we know, and this is often, I think, where individualistic ideology really attaches to some people, is the idea that if we can do it, why can't you? Is the other element to this, which perhaps because we have had some success, perhaps that's inspired it in us, or I feel this way, at least I'll admit that, is that I think that if I were to get into hard times, I would at least have some capability to act in a way that would mitigate the results of it, right? So, like, be it find a new job, or speak my case, or find a middle ground, or compromise with whatever thing in my life is causing this failing, right? And then that's where, I think the more conservative state of mind, at least in our country, when I talk to people, comes from, is they're like, well, I had a shit life and I worked really hard and now I'm really well off. Why? I had a shit time. Why should I then go, oh, here you go, other person having a shit time. Here's some money, or here's some help. Like, I didn't have it. They're not as good as me, or rather, why did I have to suffer and they don't have to suffer? That's where these ideas come from. And I kind of understand
that a lot,
because,
don't you, in terms of certain situations where it's like, oh, well, what? Like, wasn't it? It was probably to do with the university student debt in America as well, because they were saying they wanted to write that off, and loads of people were saying, well, I had to pay student bills though, so they should as well. And it's just like, well, but what doesn't affect you? It wouldn't affect you. And it's just, it's just more just that, well, they need to go through shit to experience life in the same way I did. And
so we can create the same people who have the same problems.
It's out of bitterness more than just like, well, they should go through every struggle I went through, so that otherwise life's not fair. And it's just like, well, it doesn't have to be like that, is it?
No.
the UK situation where we've come out of uni, we paid a third of what people pay now, and instead the government says actually everyone that has already done uni now needs to pay the same amount that the current people are paying. If the roles were reversed in that sense, it's like you'd be equally irate, right? And say like,
well, to go back.
Oh, why should I have to pay? I've already done it and paid for it. It's like, well, now you're actually owing the government the same amount that everyone else is now paying.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I think that's fair enough.
It's about participations in systems. There's my take from one episode. And if we really wanted to break this down like a film study, I would say that it's about our participation in systems and how much we are able to get wrapped up in them and how much we are willing to get wrapped up in them in order to feel as though we have agency.
There's a lack of compassion as well, because that conservative reasoning where it's like, I worked really hard and I got to where I am, again, is disregarding the self-made man like situation where you probably had a bit of luck on your side. You were born into some sort of wealth. You had good education, blah, blah, blah. You had other variables which helped you get where you are. Not just your hard work. I'm not denying the fact that you worked hard, but you had a lot of things fall into your lap because you're white, you're privileged, and blah, blah, blah. On top of that, it's also diminishing the fact that some people have hardships that they can't control. Their situation, they're born into it oftentimes, and addiction is a real thing, and I think it should be considered as like help that person. It's not their fault. I
think also like
events
and human beings, when those two things collide, you don't always get the same results. So like say for example, you've had a life, you're quite an empathetic person, you're quite an emotionally intelligent person or something like that, and you've had a life that's nourished and encouraged that systems and those tools that you find yourself more open to or more sort of capable with, versus a person that had those same gifts or those same abilities put through a life where those kind of discussions and ideas were considered not really worth talking about. Like, those two people will have completely different outcomes in their life, simply not because of who they are, but because of the things that have happened to them and how them as a person, relates to those things. It's like you say, it's just there's too many variables to have every single decision to come down to competition. Like if we really did that, we would have such an unstable place as a world. If everything came down to competition, if everything came down to survival of the fittest, we'd be a much more ignorant species, and that's just not really in our nature as explorers and progressors. It's not. I don't think. I think that I think it's just kind of shit has to grease the the shit that happens along the way, but I don't think that ultimately it undoes us as a species unless we accidentally fuck ourselves over with a what do they call it? What's that filter called? Some sort of event.
The Fermi paradox.
The Fermi event.
Fermi
paradox, that's it. Yeah.
The great filter.
As long as we get through all those Fermi events. But anyway, maybe it is. It's not a bad show.
Shows all right from one episode. We'll see. It does get very good. Yeah, there are some very good episodes already. I'm only up to like 5, I think. So yeah.
There's only 8, I think.
Yeah, but I recommend it from there alone. Hopefully we haven't spoiled anything major. We've kind of only touched upon themes that are literally shown within the trailer.
The way it's presented alone is worth, even if you knew what happens, it's still, I think, stylistically, visually, cinematography and everything is really good.
Speaking of stylistic, just very quickly, whilst we're talking about TV shows, I've been watching Foundation on Apple TV, which, first of all, it's based on some books by Isaac Asimov, who's like considered one of the fathers of sci-fi. He's a very well-reviewed writer, and it deviates from those books quite a lot. And I can totally see how somebody who's read those books would not enjoy the show as much as I've been enjoying it. But I've gone in from complete ignorance. I had no idea what the story was about. They've changed some major things in the TV show, versus the books. So I would hope that other people could go into it with a more, because I can imagine if I'd read the books and then they'd made some major changes, it would have pissed me off. And so I can see people having a completely different experience of this show than I could. But I came into it and I'm absolutely loving it. It's so good. it's this really kind of like almost theatrical sci-fi, but like some of the dialogue is great. Like some of the things they talk about and deal with, like from like a human beings had advanced another 1,000 years or something like that, like there's like a space elevator in it and shit like that. There's like epic, like everything's built at like epic grand scale. It's like a sci-fi kind of like epic, really cool. I would really recommend it. There's quite a lot of dialogue and there's a lot to keep on top of because it skips time forward and back a bit, but
the guy who wrote that with somebody else also wrote the Blade trilogy, Dark Knight trilogy.
Wow.
With Chris Nolan. Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice. So there's some hits and misses there, but more surprisingly, Call of Duty Black Ops 2 and Black Ops Cold War stories. He helped write this. David.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, this.
I recognize his name. I'm not sure where. So I googled it. And
this show feels extremely complicated. So
as complicated as Ghost Rider: Spirit of Vengeance, which he also
maybe not.
No?
Maybe not. But yeah, I really would encourage you to give it a go. It's a bit like I imagine what Dune is going to be like. In that it's very
Dune,
like like a theater epic. I want to say almost like Greek or like very classic, like kind of looking like everyone's sort of the way it's shot and the way it's made. It's sort of inspired by this very sort of noble theater kind of feeling, and I think Dune's kind of taken some of that inspiration as well. They've made it
that's Dennis
look sort of
that's his style,
very much classic kind of. It's beautiful, really. They are like oh man,
huge.
But
vistas.
Foundation's full of that. I would really give it a go.
Cool.
I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
All right, Foundation. There's a recommendation for you all. If you don't get anything else away from this, it's that.
Apparently they want to write over 80 episodes for it.
Oh shit!
They want it to be like, they basically want it to be a sci-fi Game of Thrones is what they're hoping for.
Wow. Jeez.
They got Expanse
really cool
to compete with. So
yeah, but I mean, it's already a bigger world than the Expanse, though. Like in Foundation, it's like based on an empire or the end of a great empire. It's been predicted using a mathematical equation, basically using what we think eventually we will be able to do by using math to predict the future based on possible variables and the mathematical likelihood of things like that. Like there's this mathematician who's basically predicted the end of this great empire that's reigned for a long, long time. And the Foundation is, he thinks there's going to be like a world ending or a galaxy ending event or something similar to that. And they want to create a foundation of knowledge so that the ashes of humanity can rise again, is like the premise. And the show follows the end of this. You start during the Empire. So the Empire's still going. And then events start happening that heads towards this event and the development of colonies and really cool. Very, very interesting idea. Stellaris sort of scale.
Cool. Damn. All right.
Anyway,
we'll check it out. Well, to wrap things up, shall we go through a couple bits of funny news that Ross has collated?
Yeah, sure. There's been you'll be shocked to hear there's been a clown shortage.
Are you serious?
Yeah, there's been a clown shortage.
What about the 15 clowns we were going to hire to beat the shit out of Trott on his birthday?
Well, we won't be able to do that now.
We're going to have to use like 3 or 4, the regular guys.
We might have to just use a couple, yeah. But there's an appeal for new recruits in Northern Ireland.
Damn it. That sucks.
It says here, according to David Duffy, co-owner of Duffy's Circus, who is appealing for people from Northern Ireland to become clowns. The COVID-19 pandemic has caused a shortage of the performers as many return to their home countries when the first lockdown came into force in early 2020. But
they're all driving lorries.
They're asking, the clowns are in the lorries, guys. Or are they? I mean, there's been a lack of that too, so who knows? So what makes a good clown? Someone who's willing to make themselves vulnerable. Known professional, sorry, that was from Nolene Fries Newman, who's known professionally as Silly Tilly. Not everyone likes to be laughed at, but for someone who's a clown, your worst nightmare would be to be not laughed at, of course. We mention clowns not long ago, didn't we, in terms of them being quite horrifying to us just in general, just because it's quite a scary thing. But there were actually, when we mentioned that, I saw there was a bit of backlash in the comments about how good clowns make people feel. And, a decent clown is worth, a lot of money, apparently.
I feel like it's a cultural difference.
It's a cultural difference. Yeah. And also it's that we have no, cultural ties that I can think of left to clowns. I'm sure at a certain point they made sense, like with their crazy makeup and their big noses, and like other elements of media more represented like their humor, whether common media, like TV shows or whatever was cartoons, newspaper articles, I don't know, whatever the hell people used to use as entertainment, perhaps had a more clowny slapstick element to it. People would recognize that humor more. But for me, the humor that clowns produce, I'm not interested in.
I think all shows, like you say, clowns have never been the good guy. They've always been the villain, or like some sort of perverse creature or entity that's messing with children. They've always
not just
used
because the polar opposite it represents, because it's supposed to be a funny, character. To then make that malicious and evil, that's an easy thing to kind of convert and kind of go, oh no, something that I thought would be funny and safe for children is now evil and killing them. It's just like that's
It may used to have been that.
Tropey.
However, I feel like there's been so much content which is literally taking clowns and making them horror characters. There's more than that than there are of the actual original source of clowns being funny.
in modern medium, potentially,
I think that's what I've been.
Especially when there was a state
pretty
of
much.
killer clowns, like kind of wandering around fields and like country roads. People were just like, there are killer clowns everywhere. Not actually. I don't think they actually killed anyone. They were just literally just fucking spooking people in the streets.
Yeah. Well, there was the John Wayne Gacy guy who ate a load of people, right, or killed them. And did he eat people? I don't know if he actually ate them.
He messed. He
murdered
house kids and killed them.
Right. Okay.
Oh,
it was horrible.
God.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
So
murdered at least 33 young men and boys.
Yeah, it's awful.
Right, but he was dressed as a clown. So that's scary enough.
Yeah. That was his day job. I don't know if he used the clown thing to lure them in. I don't think that. I think he just. It's gross. Anyway, that might be the turning point and the inspiration for a lot of horror things.
Yeah, clowns. I reckon so. Yeah, to be fair, like the popular, and also It. When was that out? 84 or something like that, or early 80s. I can't remember.
Right.
That was obviously the book. I don't know when that came out.
Not sure.
But that was also a very kind of known character, creepy. What was his actual name? I've forgotten it now. Someone said in the chat, It. The weird clown from that is freaky, and obviously they made it even freakier now.
It's supernatural. Pennywise.
Skarsgård. Pennywise, that's the one. Pennywise.
Pennywise.
I know you're probably interested in this one here. This says Eminem served pasta to guests at his restaurant opening. Can you guess what that restaurant's going to be called?
Mom Spaghetti.
Mom Spaghetti. There's not really much more to the story.
He's actually opening a pasta restaurant.
A pasta restaurant called Mom Spaghetti is it New York? Downtown Detroit. Sorry, there you go.
Spaghetti's $9. Spaghetti with balls is $12.
Yeah.
Spaghetti with vegan balls is $14.
Spaghetti sandwich.
A spaghetti sandwich. Who the fuck eats spaghetti in a sandwich?
Some people do, I'm
mad.
sure. Spaghetti on bread, $11.
$9 for spaghetti, though. That's a lot, right? Man,
if I could show the trailer for this as well, it's so poorly made. Like maybe that's a good thing. I don't know, but
road pasta.
Yeah, it's really basic, but yeah, he apparently Eminem turned up to the opening himself and started serving pasta outside the venue there. So
I mean, there
you go, Mum's Spaghetti. It's probably a guaranteed winner. It has to be.
That's got to be a joke. And also, like, the guy is literally just cooking spaghetti, and like it looks super dry. Whenever I've seen like whatever the classic interpretation of spaghetti is in the States, it looks fucking awful. Like, I watched I'm not sure I was watching. I know I was watching For All Mankind, another really good Apple TV show. And they're like meant to be in the 50s or the 60s. And they're like, we're having spaghetti night. And they just have like crappy ass, thin looking spaghetti. And then they're like, don't forget your sauce. And it's just like a red sauce with like no real texture to it. No vegetables, meat, nothing. And it's
super
just like
bright red as well. Like it's not
it's like they're
really
putting fucking like sort of ketchup on like some really shitty American pasta. And it just makes me weep, because I mean, not even the English do it particularly well, but Jesus Christ, America, sort your spaghetti out. And that looks shit too.
I had real good spaghetti the other day. Completely personal story that has no relevance really.
Sure,
it's just really good spaghetti. I had authentic Italians in Reading So good.
That's good.
Oh,
that's good.
Nice.
Did you have any turkey, mate?
I didn't have any turkey. Why? Why would you?
I was just saying because I've got a story here from Turkey. In fact, I don't know I wasn't sure how to segue that in, but this story kept coming up every time I was looking for funny news today. It says missing man joins search party looking for himself. It says a missing man in Turkey accidentally joined his own search party for hours before realizing he was the person they were looking for. His name's Bayan.
What's her name? Oh, weird. That's my name.
Guys, all hands on deck. Let's get this guy. His name's Bayan Mutlu, and he had been drinking with friends on Tuesday when he wandered into a forest in Bursa province. When he failed to return,
gone, he left. The amount of fires they've been having.
Yeah, right. When he failed to return, his wife and friends alerted local authorities, and a search party was sent out. Mr. Mutlu, 50, then stumbled across the search party and decided to join them. But when members of the search party began calling out his name, he replied, "I am here."
Just in the crowd.
No, that's me. Yeah? I'm here. He was taken aside by one of the rescue workers to give a statement. He said, "Don't punish me too harshly, officer. My father will kill me." This guy's 50 years old.
My father will kill me.
He's worried his father's going to kill him.
What a strange...
After joining his own search party.
Like, imagine him like wandering over to them like, "Oh man, sorry guys, I've been lost for some time. I imagine my family are very worried. I think I heard some people calling my name, but who are we searching for?"
Oh yeah, who are we looking for? What's their description? Oh, I don't know. I mean, a little bit like you, I guess, on paper. But we'll keep looking. Come join us.
Their name is this. And you're like, "Oh, that's my name." Weird.
I am that man. What? You've been here for hours. What's the fucking point of this? But yeah, that's
such
that came up a lot
hat chat
because
funny
it's
news.
ridiculous.
That's a real classic.
There you go. That's the new film title right there. I am here. A story of
hours. Yeah, it could be a real time, like one of those films, which is pretty much 90 minutes of real time, where he stumbled upon the party. Okay, so they're all looking at this panicked moment, suspense. I found a bit of material. Oh, could it be his? Like, no, it's not Greg's. Greg, I'm here.
I am here.
That wasn't his name.
Roll credits.
Greg, but still, Mutlu.
Greg's a good name for an adaptation, though.
Yeah, it's going to be adapted. Of course,
he's going to have to be American with Chris Pratt playing a Turkish man, a drunk 50-year-old Turkish man.
Yeah,
Chris, we're going to have to age it up pretty bad for this, bro. Let's not worry. I played Mario like last week.
I'll just eat a ton of ice cream and just won't wash for a bit. Is that okay?
Sure. Terrifyingly massive weight change. I'll do it.
Love it. We'll go down the Christian Bale route. Got it. Okay.
Got it.
Well, that's about all we have time for today on Hat Chat episode 69. Nice.
Nice.
I hope you've all, we've taken you really to the depths of human experience. Talked about, what makes things magical. And then talking about, existentialism of, how people are very individualistic and stuff. And then ended up with a very individualistic man joining his own search party. So that's a bit ego-filled, isn't it, really?
Yeah, I don't think he knew from the sounds of it.
Maybe he was trying to...
He was really drunk.
I think the real lesson we learned here is he was just a man trying to find himself.
Yeah.
Wow. Maybe you can find
yourself. And in
yourself.
the end, he did.
I am here.
I am here.
I am here, points to his heart. Oh, for fuck's sake. Fuck off, Greg. We've been out here for hours.
Drone pull away.
I'd like to give a big thanks to Nerve Cluster, aka Matt, for their fingle.
Cheers,
and
Matt.
if you have a musical mind and can create a fingle for us, we'd very much appreciate you sending it to hatchat@hat-films.com, please. Thank you. I want your fingles. I'm still dredging through the catalogue that we've had over the past couple of years. It's time for some new stuff. So send it on in. And also a huge thanks to our Patreon supporters who are just keeping us going every week. You get the ad-free version on Patreon if you don't like the ads on the podcast platforms. And you also get to help choose in a poll the hypothetical for each week. So thank you for that. And you also get credits at the end of our YouTube video. So if you want to see the visuals of this, we've got Hat Chat on YouTube. All the episodes go up there. Anything else?
I think that's everything, mate.
I just thought of another credit that could come up at the beginning of this film.
Yeah.
In association with his father.
Just
this. I love this idea. Let's make a film about it. Let's go and film a film. Let's go make a short film about a man that joins his own search party.
That's so
who's going to play? Who's going to play a clueless sort of?
I probably look closer to 50 than the rest of you, so we can make that work.
I don't know. Have you seen me in Dr. Jesus Trott? I think I can age pretty
well. I did. We aged you well.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys you and your crepe hair and spirit gun.
I can really age a man with a long wizard-like beard.
Do you reckon you could do me a merkin?
Merkin, yeah. We've done merkins. We can do those.
The removal process is quite harsh, but yeah.
Oh, God, isn't it just that glue?
It sucks. Anyway, thank you for listening. We'll see you all next week because these are weekly now. And if you've missed any, there's 68 to get through. So go back through and enjoy your weekend. And
you started at 69. It's nuts.
I know. Crazy.
First one.
Nice.
More to come. Anyway, have a great day, everybody. See you next week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
See you later.
Bye-bye.